Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Positive Pessimist Podcast. It's Wrestling Wednesday. I'm your host, Tim Gaither. My guest today is Ty Friederichs. Ty Friederichs is a four-time Minnesota State champion. He wrestled for the University of Minnesota under Jay Robinson. Had his brother on a few months ago, TJ, great dude, and heard great things about Ty. And he seems like a cool dude, different breed of cat, and I can't wait to talk to him, so let's bring him in.
Yeah, I wanted to start off by thanking you for that video of my brother. It was so much more meaningful than, you guys can imagine. I think I sent you a message, right?
Yeah.
Just our relationship and how it's evolved over the years. But more importantly, hearing him be vulnerable. I've never heard my brother vulnerable.
Really?
Oh yeah, if he cries, it's sand, my man. But he has it in him, right? He's got a lot of miles in him. Earned miles, and I couldn't be more proud of him, especially the father he's became and has been, with his oldest son and of course his twins. So thank you.
Yeah, man, you bet. He's a great guy, and it's a great story. And he was telling me beforehand. I was like, tell me what your biggest accomplishment was, and he was, I don't want to say he was knocking himself, but he's like, I never reached my potential, and blah blah blah. And he told me the story, and I was like, well, those are the best kind of things to me,
Right.
Those are the stories I like to hear. I like to hear about guys that, and he was a prodigy. I mean, the guy got eighth in Minnesota State second as an eighth grader.
Right.
And, that kind of stuff is just blows my mind,
Right.
So how many years older is he than you?
He's about 2.5.
Okay.
Yeah, about 2.5, yeah. As far as, how fast we age, I mean, night and day, man. He used to pick on me because, I had high voice. I didn't have hair under my armpits. He'd make fun of me about that. And I swear to God, the guy was shaving in, 6th grade. And he was a beast. We would have to bring him to the doctor to get notes so he could wrestle older guys, right? And, what's interesting about our sport, in my opinion, is it's an obsessive sport, right? And it really is. And it's kind of a cult, and, ultimately, we don't care if there's fans. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're doing it for pride, for work ethic, for pushing ourselves. And I think fans are coming naturally because it's considered, a martial art now, which it always was. It's not two guys rolling around in leotards anymore, right?
Yeah.
I think I saw that change start happening around 2000. I think MMA helped quite a bit, but the stories.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, well, why can't we sell this sport? Sell the work ethic. Sell the the farm kid. Not being technical, but using bale and hay to become a stud. That's what Dan Gable did. He'd get those blue collar guys and make wrestlers and champions out of them.
Yeah, and at the same time, I feel like it's never going to be the most popular sport in the world just because it's so freaking hard that most people will never even try it. And if they do, they're like, why would anyone keep doing that? It's hard.
Right.
So it seems like the people who are fans are people who either know somebody through their family that wrestles or they wrestled themselves. So it is getting so much bigger, and I'm so thankful for Flow and all those things where you can watch it all the time. Because when we were growing up, I was a total nerd. I knew who you were just because I would look through USA Wrestler and be like, oh, this guy's a 4-time state champ, or at the time 3-time or whatever. And, back then you would have to wait for a month to see who won the world championships. That happened a month ago. You're like, well, shit, what happened?
Right.
So that aspect of it, I just love. And, that you can sit and watch it, that you can get up at 5 a.m. and watch the world championships if you want to.
Right.
How old were you when you started?
I was about 3.
Oh, yeah, wow.
I was pretty young. I mean, I'd have to go to Iowa because that's the only place to kind of let you wrestle when you're 3 back then. You're born in a singlet. And, we were born in Iowa. Our whole family roots are from Iowa.
Okay.
And, my uncle, I think TJ probably told you, he's a standout wrestler. He's I think he took 3rd in college. And back then there was only three years, right? And then his senior year, I believe he blew his knee. He tried freestyle once and took second in the trials for Olympics.
Wow.
Yeah, and then he ran a very successful program, Iowa Central Community College, which is a powerhouse. And, everybody, like Luke Moffitt's the head coach, I believe, now. But, the guys before him, like Troy Bennett, Mark Ostrander, I forget their names. But, they're all studs, and that's who we grew up looking at. And that's quite frankly the only folk style we got exposed to. TJ and I focused on grapple and freestyle because we were raised to be Olympians.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, Dan Chandler for grapple, he's an Olympic coach. He's our childhood coach. Guys like Marty Morgan, Jim Zaleski, my God, John Thorne, all studs. What my dad did great, and where he was ahead of the curve when it comes to wrestling is the business side. He was the administrator, and these college guys were poor, right? And they needed money for, training. And ultimately my dad would pay them money, and, we were the byproducts, right?
Nice.
A lot of people thought it was insane the way we were trained because, it was. It's a tough sport. Anybody who dedicates themselves to that sport, because it's quite frankly the pursuit of perfection, which you can never reach, right?
Yeah.
And, that's one of the trillion things I love about it is you're always trying to pursue the best you can. And, whatever it is, if I'm shoveling shit, I'm going to try and be the best shit shoveler I can be, right?
Yeah.
It creates adaptability, but I really started, because, this is hard for me. I'm an introvert. But I can pick it up if I need to, right?
Yeah.
And wrestling's easy to talk about. But, I didn't meet my goals. But then I started, and that's bothered me for a long time. I put in the hours to meet my goals. But, and a lot of people would say, well, you did pretty damn good. But no, they weren't my goals. It didn't go the way I wanted it to. No different than TJ, but guess what? You asked, Date. You asked Taylor, you asked John Smith, I guarantee you none of them met all their goals, right? Yeah. I know Kerry Colot didn't. The guy deserved it, for sure.
Yeah.
But so I had to rewire my brain, right? And my dad, and you probably heard this 1,000 times through my brother R.I., because, we're friends on social media, but it's just part of your education. And I always got it. But I'll tell you what, man, it's so much clearer now.
Yeah.
And, it's been a blessing. And I think, a big part of it is the best people I know have overcome something through recovery. And it doesn't mean alcohol, right? It doesn't mean drugs, but something. It could be a death of a family member, a divorce. The best people I know are, survivors of some form of recovery, especially if they learn from it, right? And become better. But, yeah. TJ was modest. There's some things that he didn't admit to that really impacted him, and we can talk about that too.
Okay. So was it your dad or your uncle that got you into it initially?
Well, my whole family, my brother or my dad's side were wrestlers, right? I think farmers in older generations, we weren't farmers. Many brothers, they're all shaped different. Tim was shaped, my dad, I refer to him as Tim. We have since birth. People thought that was weird, and he is my biological father.
Yeah.
But, he was long and lanky, but a little bit of a wild man. He liked drinking. Of course, that's how he died. Then Denny was, I'd say I'm most like Denny and his boy Denny Lee as far as personality, at least on my dad's side.
Okay.
And then, Norm was short. He was a monster. And then, there's an older brother named Jack. He unfortunately died in a car accident. He had, he didn't get to live a full life. So I never met him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say my dad, and then, you know how it is. It's a village, right? That's what's cool about the sport.
Yeah.
You all work together. It's a blue collar sport.
Yeah.
It just is.
Tell me a little more about your dad. They called him Fuzzy, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was, TJ, they used to fight so much. And, TJ would call him the bearded lady. I didn't have the balls to do that. I was obedient, right? Anything my dad told me to do, I did. You know, jump how high. You know, my dad he's brilliant, right? He's a mathematician, and he knew numbers so well, and I get that from him. Not to his level, but you know, he was always looking in data, and kind of like you're saying with the you know, USA wrestlers. He was doing data sheets before, you know, you had databases.
Oh, wow.
You know, and everything was about, you know, we went from, everybody thinks we were kind of rich. We weren't. We went from very, very, very poor to very, very, very rich back to zero, right? So it's like, whee! And it was fun. And, you know, what my dad would always invest in was us, his family. What he'd invest in was people. So, like, anybody, did TJ talk about the high flyers? I watched that video like 20 times, but I forget. Our youth club?
A little bit. I believe he did. Yeah, that's where you guys started. I remember him telling me that.
Right. So, my dad brought kind of Iowa mentality, Gable stuff to Minnesota, right?
Okay.
And he pushed us very hard, but this small little town, Mount Westonka, it's where TJ and I consider where we're from. Beautiful city, you know, has lakes and, you know, outdoors, and he started this High Flyers Club, a youth program, and we became the #1 team in the nation. And it was simply by doing things the way others weren't. You know, bringing in coaches, college guys, and not even paying them a ton of money, but a little bit of money.
Yeah.
What made my dad a great coach and my brother a brilliant one, so I'm glad this one, you know, fell off the tree close to the tree, but is he didn't care if you were a blue chipper, right? He cared about effort. That's it. And he would honestly say the poorest people are the toughest. So what he would do for the kids that didn't, you know, maybe their parents weren't higher income, right? Or maybe they worked on weekends. Well, we do a carpool every before every tournament. If they couldn't pay for it, my dad would pay for it. If after the tournament, he'd bring everybody to this pizza on the lake, and you know, the kids would run loose, and if they, you know, they couldn't afford it, he'd pay for it, right? So he's a very generous man, and almost to a fault.
Yeah.
But you know, you recognize that stuff. Very hard on us, you know, to a level that most people wouldn't, you know, understand. But you know, it's all in the name of love.
Physically or mentally or both?
Everything.
Yeah.
You know, ultimately pushing our limits. I think where he failed, and it's not necessarily a failure. TJ and I talk about nature, nurture, and free will quite a bit. And I'll probably say it quite a few times because I think that's what dictates a person's life, right? One thing more than another, but the most beautiful thing is free will.
Yeah.
You believe in God, right? You know, free will, your ability to make a choice and, you know, make the right one. But, you know, nature being the, you know, society you brought up, and nurture the family.
Yeah.
And where he failed was the culture of wrestling, because back then weight cutting was, you know, was anybody who wrestles has to weight cut. But back then, how my dad explained it to me is the toughest guy is the one who can cut the most weight. And so I did that. And I started severe weight cutting probably in 3rd grade. And I remember it was 55 down to 50. That's a lot of weight.
Yeah.
You know, 5 pounds. And, you know, the discipline that took, because that was every weekend all the way through college. And quite frankly, it's, you know, kind of what stalled my career. I got sick of weight cutting.
Yeah.
But I got good at it, right? And I could do it for hours. And it creates that mental strength. Because it sucks. I mean, you watch some of those UFC fighters, and they're adults, toughest guys in the world, right? And some of them don't make weight, or they're crying, or they give up. Well, I had to do that every weekend.
Yeah.
Every weekend. Suffice it to say, I was happy. I got to see the change. I got to experience it. And it was kind of a sad story. You know, I would say the kids are martyrs for wrestling, but their family and their, you know, teammates and whoever loved them would probably not like that word. But for the sport, remember when all those kids died?
Yeah, mid-90s.
Right. And, you know, that actually started happening while I was in college, and something happened that was different. That's where people started doing creatine.
Okay.
And Germans have been doing it forever, right? So we were eating creatine. I don't think a lot of people understood it fully, and it works. But if you understand what creatine does, it holds water in your muscles, right?
Okay.
And when you're sucking weight, you're trying to squeeze that out. And it doesn't work, right? So their body temperature drops. People have been cutting weight forever.
Yeah.
1 year, 5 people, 6 people died. And what happened, in my opinion, I did a speech on it because they never narrowed it down to creatine. But I cut weight my whole life. It was different. I was in college. There was a couple times I had to go to the hospital, get water pumped back in me. I hesitate to say names, but they know who they are. One of my buddies who, I squared off with quite a bit, I'll never forget, he fell off the scale and he had these huge cramps rolling through his legs. And he's screaming in agony, about the toughest kid I know. And I'm trying to rub him out, not knowing what's going on. And sure enough, kids just died. And it sucked, right? But the rules changed. And this is what I mean by martyr. And it became a thing where you had to weigh in 2 hours or 1 hour before you wrestled. So the ability to suck 20 pounds in one night, regain your strength, liquids, and power, and perform, you just can't do that.
Right.
You do that and wrestle 1 hour after, you're going to get your ass whooped.
Yeah.
Period. So it forced people to wrestle to change. And in my opinion, they focus more on proper diet, proper training, cross training. And the results speak for themselves. Oldest sport in the world, I've never seen it advance as much as it has in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to me.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
Are you glad to see him getting away from the cutting weight and all that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's truly what burns people out.
Yeah.
I did it. All my friends know how hard I did it, but they don't truly know because they didn't live it, right?
Yeah.
They came over and cut weight with me. And I did with some of them. Don't get me wrong. A lot of them cut tons of weight, for sure. But, you ask any of them, a lot of them, it truly did burn you out. It starts to become, all right, I made weight, and you're not focused on what you should be, which is the wrestling, right?
Yeah.
But also, we're just all better if we're walking around a naturally 5% body fat and eating. So I got to experience it for 1 year, my senior year in college, and it was crazy. And how much muscle I put on, right? I lifted weights my whole life.
Yeah.
But you can't really put on muscle without nutrients.
Yeah.
So I put on a ton of muscle. And how it would work is you got down, your body was naturally 5 to 10 pounds overweight. And what we do is, day of weigh-ins, we'd wrestle a 20-minute match. Practice, and all of a sudden your warm-up's out of the way. You lose about 5 to 10 pounds.
Yeah.
Because you work so hard, and you weigh in, maybe drink a little bit, and then you compete. And I think once you focus on, it's always going to be a part of the sport. But with that said, if you focus more on what the sport is, which is wrestling, you're just going to see better wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, that was a big reason that I didn't continue wrestling, and I was the same way. My very first year, my weight class was 52 pounds, and my dad was like, you could make 49 in the by the morning. You only weigh 50. All you got to do is not eat, and then by morning you'll weigh 49. I'm like, okay. So I grew up thinking that I had to, if I was going to win, I needed to be at the weight below whatever I weighed or whatever, and. And even to this day, I'm 46, and I feel like I have a borderline eating disorder sometimes, like, dude, just...
I do too.
Did that affect you a little bit that way?
Oh, man, all my buddies who sucked weight, we talk about, it's PTSD.
Yeah.
I mean, I have nightmares about weighing in, and I'm drinking water, but the nightmare is not only do I, cheating on my diet, right? We call it cheating. I never cheated. That's why, I don't know. We'll joke about that. So if I'm busting his balls, it's simply because we're brothers. We do this all the time. But no, I kind of lost my train of thought there just to make sure I wasn't beating up my brother too much. But because he'll punch back.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, I mean, we have nightmares about it, and it's usually drinking a bunch of water, and I can't quench my thirst. So I just wasted, and I have to cut off those 2, 3, 5 more pounds, and I didn't solve anything, you know? It's PTSD.
I used to, when we'd go to like the Kid State Wrestling Tournament, that was the only time you'd see like a toll booth. Right. And I remember thinking like, God, what a great job. They can just sit in there in the air conditioning and eat and drink whatever they want. And like when you're going through it, when you're cutting weight, like going to I used to go to the grocery store and just like think of all the stuff I was going to eat. And then you buy all this crap. And then the next morning you drink a Gatorade and you're so full you can't even stand it. So you got all this food you can't eat.
Right.
Yeah. I used to like...
Puke it out.
Yeah.
You puke it out because you drank it too fast, right?
Yeah, I did that too. Yeah. And sometimes I used to like to go and watch people eat in the cafeteria because I'd be like, tomorrow I'm going to eat too.
Right.
How psycho is that? But
right. We had it down to a science too, right? We call it floating weight, and they measured you tenths of a pound, for goodness sakes, which is crazy. But I knew how much I would float overnight based off of how I felt. Yeah. Within a tenth of a pound. And I did a speech I hated speeches because I'm an introvert, and I did a speech on it in college, and speeches come easy to me if it's something I know about, right? Yeah. And I did one on this theory about, creatine, weight cutting, and explain what a routine looked like, and everybody thought I was crazy. And of course, all the the women in the class were like, oh, how do you lose 10 pounds like that? I'm like, A, you don't want to. It sucks. B, it comes back within seconds, and it's essentially a level of dehydration that 95% of the world will never fully understand. Yeah. Because it's hard to explain. I don't know about you, but the hunger pains, those are easy. It's that last squeeze and that last drip, that last tenth of a pound or half a pound of water out of your body, which is challenging.
Yeah, the hunger pains for me, like you get to a point where you almost feel like you're going to throw up, and then you just fight through that for just a couple minutes. I mean, it might be a couple of really brutal minutes, but then it just kind of goes away, and then you're good as far as the hunger pains. But yeah, people don't understand like dehydrating yourself. I remember, especially the first time making weight, walking up the stairs and having to sit down in school, like with nobody around, just like sit down because my heart was beating so freaking fast. And, and like you said, like you touched on that, you're not getting better at wrestling when that's all you're concerned about. But so did you you cut a lot in high school, even after you won a couple of state titles?
Every weekend.
Yeah.
Every weekend. Yeah. I mean, I'd wrestle, once I got bigger and a little bit more stronger, my team, I'd do whatever they wanted for me, right? Or wanted of me. I didn't care if I lost. I think I had losses every year in high school except my senior year. And I damn near lost my senior year, right? Yeah. And to ninth grader. And I almost did a week later, too, and that was humbling.
Same kid?
But, no, so one was, he's a stud. His name's Luke Becker. Okay. And I kid you not, the pressure was on because, someone hasn't, I think it's like 20 years since someone won a 4-state title. And then, on top of that, I think I was the only one to do it for all 4 AA. I think there's one that did 2 in single A and, 2 in AA. Because back then there's 2 classes in Minnesota, right? Yeah. So I was considered the first one in like 20 years and the first one, I think, to ever do it in strictly AA, which is bigger schools. And there's a lot of pressure, and sure enough, the thing that scared me the most is someone I didn't know. And then I just started seeing this Luke Becker name climbing up the records, right? And then so I looked him up, and I wasn't scared of anybody who didn't do freestyle and grapple, because TJ and I went all year. A lot of people just did folk style or maybe in free. We went all year. We did Ironman, all freestyles. And so Luke Becker, I meet him in the semis, and he's beating me. He had the first takedown. I couldn't believe how freaking strong this kid was. I'm like, oh my God, you're in ninth grade. And he's a beast of a man.
Yeah. I'm
Well,
familiar with the name.
anyways, he took me down. He got a leg up, and I tried to fly in cradle, which I can typically get on most people, and I got away. So 2-1. My choice in the second, so I picked down. I got away. Couldn't take him down. 2-2. So his choice, he picks down, which is, in our family, that's a free point. So I'm like, shit, I'm down. I'm gonna let him go. And I could, you know how when you're on that mat, you can hear the only voice? Everything else is in a tunnel. It's my dad's, or my brother's, or my coach's, or, maybe my buddy, right? Well, my tunnel was my dad, and he's like, ride him for a little bit, so I did, and I baited him. I gave him my leg, because I was doing this stuff. My buddy, Dave Drogemuller, who's my coach's son, who's a stud. He's an All-American for Nebraska. He was good at working a style, so he taught me how to cut a corner from a high crunch.
Okay.
And I was working on that because nobody taught that crap. I had to teach, they taught, everything I did, they taught against. I couldn't wrestle like the short, strong guys. I was tall and lanky from weight cut, right?
Yeah.
So I baited him, and I got him in the cradle, and I turned him, and I held him there the whole period. And, so I won, and I remember I couldn't squeeze my hands.
Yeah.
Because I was so tight, I couldn't sign my name afterwards. And long story short, Luke Becker never lost a Minnesota high school match again.
Okay.
He was a 4-time All-American for the Gophers, so he ended up being a teammate. He was a national champion for the Gophers. And then ultimately, he's a coach, the assistant coach there now. So he wasn't bad.
Yeah.
He's a pretty good wrestler.
Yeah.
The second one was a guy named Jake Clark, and that was a week later, and that was freestyle. And he was one of my prodigies, the little kid. They wrestled for the High Flyers, and he damn near beat me 7-6. Well, Jake Clark's a stud in Greco. He's still making or trying Olympic teams, and he's like 42.
Awesome.
So yeah, good guys. And they asked me. I remember they said, "Do you think that another guy's going to do it?" And I said, "Yeah, I think this Chad Erickson guy's going to." And he was right behind me. In fact, I tried to cut down to wrestle him, and he's one of my best friends.
Okay.
It's actually the guy who took my spot after you.
Okay.
We're best buds. Like, we're, one of my best friends. And I think he's going to do it. And they asked why. I said, well, I think people are getting the training that my brother and I did. My dad kind of helped start that in Minnesota. And, I take a lot of pride in that because now I got like 6 buddies that's all they do is run wrestling schools. Pinnacle would be like Brandon Paulson, Jared Lawrence. I don't know if you know those names.
Yeah.
We got Thorne, which is the Thorne brothers. Their dad was one of my mentors. He runs the camp. You got Chad Erickson. He runs his Minnesota Elite stuff. You got JJ. That's, where the twins train.
Okay.
And they do it as a business. They bring in college guys. It's sweet.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Is there one of your titles in high school that you point to that was the toughest to win?
I tried to make each one tough. You like Rocky, right?
Oh, yeah.
Who doesn't?
Yeah.
Yeah, the easiest one is the first, right? I liked Rocky 3 a lot because, he got the glory, he got the fame. The girls were, kissing him on the cheek, and, Adrian was pissed off on the side. And, he got complacent, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's always a Clubber Lang. There's always someone, in that sweaty gym just ripping out pull-ups, and his own goal is to beat you.
Right.
And I had a lot of that. So my first year, I'd said this in an article once, I didn't believe I could do it. My coach ranked me at 6 at the beginning of the year, and I was like, well, thanks. And he's like, you're better than 6. And my second year was to prove it to myself. Not only that, the guy who I beat in double overtime or whatever it was, Travis Shives, he's a great guy. I felt bad for him. He would have been a 3-time state champ, but I wasn't in his way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I met him every year. Yeah, and he said, he wrote an article, and he said, Ty will never get me in that move again. And my coach put on my locker, and, that ruffled my feathers. So, of course, I'm going to do it again, right?
Yeah.
So that was my second one. My third one, I think my brother told you about. I busted my thumb in practice. I thought it was dislocated, because if you dislocate something, it looks ugly, right? So I ran to my coach and asked if he could pop it back in, and he had this saying, is it an owie or an injury? And he said, Ty, that's an injury, right? So I went and got cast up, and it wasn't healing. So they didn't set it right. So I had to have it rebroken.
Okay.
And that sucked. They didn't even put me out for that. I remember I teared up. And they had to rebust it, reset it, and I missed so much of the season. And then this whole team came to watch me, and I got, I think, pinned.
Oh, wow.
And it was so embarrassing. After that tournament, I had like a losing record, going into my third state title. I also chipped my bone back. We just didn't talk about our injuries. You talk about that, people are going to take advantage of it, right?
Yeah.
But I had this cast, which is illegal, but I had it taped up so much they couldn't tell, but I couldn't grip, right? And grip's so important in wrestling, but that was my hurdle my junior year, right? And I used that as a motivator, and it ended up being my best high school state title as far as point spread.
Yeah.
And then my senior year, it was the pressure. It was harder than I thought.
Yeah.
It was distracting. And, but it also was a motivator. I got in trouble in high school drinking. My coach sat me down. He's like, "You have plenty of time for beers in the future because you worked your whole life for this." And he was right. Yeah. So, I joined cross country to get rid of my penalty. Yeah. But, I ended up being pretty good at cross country, because I got long legs and, like a gazelle, I can run distance. I can't run sprints. It takes those legs a long time to get going. Yeah. Right? But I have good lungs. So, that was a blessing. So as long as anything in, I think, life that comes your way, as long as you respond to it, right? Who cares what direction that road takes you, right? Yeah. And, so they're all tough.
And you went undefeated your senior year, right? So you obviously handled the pressure pretty well.
The pressure, which one was the most difficult or rewarding, and ultimately, they all were for different reasons, right? And I think you have to keep that mindset if you want to stay on top. I don't know if you watch MMA. I love it mainly because I like martial arts, but it doesn't matter what martial art. But really because wrestlers have an outlet to make a career and they're dominating it. Any grappling I like. Jiujitsu, sambo. My grandpa, I believe, is what they call catch and catch. Do you know what that was?
No.
That's what evolved into pro wrestling. So basically, it's wrestling until you submitted someone. And what happened is the matches would go forever eventually, right? So they started staging it. Then they started adding, the soap opera to it, from my understanding. But I just, grappling is grappling. It's just different rule sets, and it's done everywhere in the world, everywhere. Yeah. If I could have, I would have done judo. We couldn't find one. My brother got me really interested in sambo. That's where that Russian Khabib is. Okay. Nurmagomedov, and kind of that Rocky story, right? Conor McGregor. Yeah. Humble roots, poor plumber, hungry, got to the top. Well, guess what? He let the top get to him. He thought he was better than everybody else, and he got humbled by a guy from Dagestan. You don't mess with people from Dagestan. Yeah, no kidding. They're good grapplers. Yeah. But I actually just joined Jiu-Jitsu because I wanted to do it for years. I hadn't wrestled in 20 years. And I was having a heck of a time doing it because it's new skill sets, right? Yeah. And you see some of those translating over to wrestling and vice versa. And I tore my arm 1 month in. Everything. Everything. And I didn't even notice it because, I just kept going. And then afterwards, I'm like, oh, that's an injury. And, I tore my ligaments, my tendons, yada, yada, yada. And I'm trying to avoid surgery, and I'm successfully doing that by pounding away at PT. It's been a bitch. Yeah. I underestimated the shoulder injury, but it's so dynamic. You know what I mean? Yeah.
There's a lot going on in there, and the physical therapy is where the healing is. Like my mom. Like, not to go off on this, but my mom. It breaks my heart because she always had these surgeries, but she never did the physical therapy. And if you don't do the physical therapy, you're better off never getting the surgery. And
Right.
I had a shoulder injury a few years ago, or it was a torn bicep tendon. And
Ooh.
I got the surgery, and it wasn't getting any better. And then I asked myself, like, well, dum-dum, are you doing the physical therapy? And I wasn't. And as soon as I started doing it, it got better, you know? So,
Right.
and that's when I realized, like, well, shit, Mom, if you would have, you know, done the physical therapy, you would be, you know, not as hobbled as you are now. But, so when you went to Minnesota, did you ever consider going anywhere else, or was it always going to be Minnesota?
Yes and no. I was getting a lot of full ride offers. I'd say the only other school I was really considering, well, I'd say Michigan, both Michigan and Michigan State. I like the North. I'm a Northerner. I like lakes. I fish a lot. But Arizona had my eye. I like Zeke Jones and Leroy Smith. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
John's girl. He's very personal. But there's a number of things why I chose Minnesota, and one for my family. I had a high school sweetheart at the time. We're not with each other, but I didn't choose it for that reason. Marty Morgan, who was my childhood coach, that was there. A lot of people I looked up to were there. We had the number one recruited class in my grade, or for my year. And I knew these guys; they're studs. The class above me, and even the class above that, was studs. Brand Paulson, Jason Davids, Tim Hartung, who I didn't know as well. He blossomed in college. He was a two-time national champ. He's a stud.
Yeah.
But the idea is Minnesota never won a title, right? So I wanted to be on a team that would win a title, and we damn near did. We took second my junior and senior year. And then ultimately we won a Big Ten title, and that stopped like 15 straight for Iowa.
Nice.
So I have a Big Ten ring. I don't know where it's at, but, Big Ten championship ring. It's not an individual one. Then after I graduated, we won back-to-back. And the first year we won it was pretty awesome because we didn't have one champ.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Team effort.
10 All-Americans, right?
Yeah, all 10. And here's the other part, is in Iowa City.
Yeah.
And me and my buddy, BJ, he's one of my best friends, we went there and we wanted to sit with the Hawkeyes. And, they were chanting, 5, 5, 5, because they had 5 guys in the final. We had 0. And no other team has done that, right? And to me, that was cool because it eventually became, wrestling's an individual sport. You do what you're supposed to do and everything else takes care of itself, right? Yeah. But that one, all those guys missed out on their goal. Anybody who wrestles at that level wants to be a national champ, period.
Yeah.
And they still pulled it back and pulled it together as a brotherhood to take home Minnesota's first national title. And, I wish I could have been a part of that. But, the group I was a part of was awesome. We would have won it, but unfortunately my buddy, one of my best friends too, Brandon Eggum, he's the head coach.
Yeah.
He happened to run into a buzzsaw named Kale Sanderson.
Yeah.
And that's a tough one to overcome. I'll tell you how good Brandon was. Kale decided not to wrestle in the World Championships his senior year because he was going for an undefeated streak.
Yeah.
So Brandon took his place. Brandon took second in the World Championship.
Yeah, I remember
that
reading.
Dude never got his title.
Yeah. So was that Kale's freshman year?
Well, they wrestled twice. So
Okay.
I remember because I actually saw Kale did lose in college.
Yeah.
People aren't aware of that. He as a redshirt freshman.
Paul Jen.
Paul Jen.
Yeah.
Yeah. He wrestled for Iowa Central.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, he died unfortunately.
Oh wow.
He's a good wrestler, but he's a redshirt. So Kale did redshirt. And it was at this tournament in Iowa. I remember I was there and I watched it. And I remember coming back to Brandon and I'm like, "You got your hands full, brother. You got a man at that size that moves like a guy our size." And I knew the Sandersons. I battled them all. Cody would probably be the biggest one I battled. I don't think I ever beat Cody. I beat Cole. I do think I wrestled Kale, and I'm pretty sure I beat him, but he's like 5 years younger than me, you know?
Yeah.
And he probably took it in overtime. He's a stud. So, yeah, I mean, he ran into him. He also had Cormier at his weight.
Yeah.
He was a 3-time All-American. He should have been a 4-timer. He should have been at least a 1-time champ. I mean, shoulda, woulda, coulda, right? You know, that's what's great about the sport. You know, Brandon's not, I'm sure he has disappointments about his career, but boy, was it colorful.
Yeah.
And that just kind of, I don't know, I think anybody who wrestled never reached their goals.
Yeah.
Was
Brock Lesnar on your teams?
He was, yeah. So Brock and I were buddies. He came later, junior and senior year, because he went JUCO first, right?
Okay.
And that was a cool story because we had another stud. His name was Shelton Benjamin. He was JUCO first too. They're both stars in the WWE.
Yeah.
But we were at a tournament. I think it was called the Buys, North Dakota. And, Shelton got beat. And all of a sudden you just hear the crowd just, what is that? And, we look over and like, what is that? And it was Brock Lesnar, right? He's the closest thing to a true Viking I have ever seen.
Yeah. And
he's a good guy. I mean, he's small town. I mean, he doesn't really like people. So when he's going WWE, I'm like, you have to be around people and entertain them. And, he's the biggest star now, right? He makes so much damn money. But he flies up to, I think, Canada. He has all this land and no internet or anything. And there's like this video of him carrying a dead deer across land. He's a specimen. But yeah, I mean, he same thing. So he wrestled Stephen Neal in the finals. And, Stephen Neal beat him. And we lost by half a point. And Stephen Neal, a lot of people don't know him. He never lost international. He's a world champ. But then he went professional football. He didn't play football.
Yeah.
Well, he has 5 Super Bowl rings. He played for the Patriots. Never played football. So he was a freak, too.
I didn't realize he never lost internationally.
No, he only lost to Kerry McCoy.
Okay.
So domestically. So he didn't make a team, I believe. But I'm pretty sure he was undefeated on the international world level. 1-for-1. World champ.
Yeah. Awesome.
He had great technique. Where Brock, I would say, Brock had technique, but he's brute strength. But it was earned. If you ever watch that man lift weights, it's crazy. It's intimidating.
Yeah.
Doing power snatches next to a guy like him, they call me Bambi, because my knees would go in. I got these long chicken legs, but what made me feel good about that is they also called Chad Kraft Bambi.
Yeah.
And he was the first 4-time All-American for Minnesota. He's a stud. He should have had a title. He blew his ankle like 30 seconds into the finals against a guy he didn't lose to that year. So, but yeah, timing's important in wrestling too, right? Like anything in life, time and the place.
Backtracking a little bit, I wanted to ask you: was it true? Is it true that you never got a takedown on your brother until like he came back from college your senior year or something?
Yeah, I picked a fight with him this morning, trying to use math and science and STEM. Science, technology, engineering, math. You'll have to read it. It's about Busavar Satyev.
Yeah,
who's my favorite wrestler.
Okay.
Because he did stuff long and lanky, and he is about my age, but you couldn't. There's no Satyavs back then, right? There's no YouTube, there's no flow wrestling, so you maybe get to VHS tape. Well, TJ is John Smith. And, I never scored on him. My senior year, I did. And I took him down John Smith's his move, a low single.
Nice.
And I don't think we ever wrestled again. And I'm glad we did. Because in college, TJ, I think he gave it a really good, serious year. He didn't make weight, so it didn't work out for him. He blew his shoulder and did exactly what you just said. Didn't do his PT. He's going to need shoulder surgery again. He's honest about that.
Yeah.
Drinking, of course. And then, it's just what I saw and where I knew I'd be able to give him another try is I saw him lose to a couple guys, right? In college, and then my true freshman year, I was beating a couple of those guys, and I never beat anybody my brother did, right? Now, he might always have that older brother thing on me.
Yeah.
We're too hurt to go at it. My mom would have to sign a waiver. It would have to be up to my mom. And we'd have to do all three. We'd have to be a freestyle, folk style, and grapple if neither of us sweet to figure it out.
And both of his boys are little studs. And what are they like? How old are they now?
I believe 14. They look so young. They're hammers, man.
Yeah.
You know as well as I do. Brothers. If I ever get in a fist fight, there's a few things I want to know. First, I check out their ears, right? If they have cauliflower, okay, they're either a striker or a grappler. Second thing is size, of course. If it's a 250-pound man, that's not going to be easy as, someone my size.
Yeah.
But then I want to know if they have brothers.
Yeah.
Because if they have brothers, that means they fist fight more than the average person who doesn't. And TJ took it to a new level. He was a fighter. He was a fist fighter. He was mean. But, he's an amazing technician. His kids are twins. So think of twins. TJ and I couldn't wrestle because he just, first of all, couldn't take it easy on me. He'd smash me. He didn't want to take it easy on me. So therefore, we couldn't really learn as much. We would. We'd grapple. But, twins, same size. You got a practice partner every day, and they had bite marks. We had to separate them as babies because they had bite marks. They're biting each other as babies. But they are like best friends. And but if you think of twins, think of Brands, Steiners, Bannock's. The list goes on, and it's simply because you got someone. Twins can go different directions, and that always surprises me.
Yeah.
Same blood, same nurture, same nature, so free will. Right? Took them on different directions, but usually they're there to pick each other up and push each other. The Titans having more success, so we worry a little bit about that and how that affects Joe. But Titans also Joe's biggest fan. He brings them up, and Joe is going to be a late bloomer. He's like me. He's more introverted. He's a little bit more calculated. Worries too much, right? Titan walks around like his shit don't stink, right? He has so much confidence. So, twins are completely different. I'd say he's more like TJ. They both have a little of us in them. As long as they keep straight and narrow, they'll be fine. But, they got a little Friederichs blood in them, so we'll see where that takes them. But I think they'll do good. And I actually brought up that video that you and him did to TJ. And I think to you, too. I said thank you because... honesty is the best policy, right? And that's where my dad kind of failed. Lead by example. Don't drink, don't smoke, get up, work out, do whatever. He made money that, he didn't have to do that stuff. Whereas TJ, his practice is what he preaches, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't drink. He explains to him why. Now he has an uncle that can explain what it did to him. Because I think everybody's relationship with alcohol is different.
Yeah.
Alcohol affects people in so many different ways. My brother's battle with it was different than my dad's. My dad's was different than my mom's. And my mom's wasn't anything except for the fact my dad died and we went through tough shit.
Yeah.
She pulled through. TJ pulled through. And, I came a little bit later. And, but mine was different. People say... it's in your DNA to be addictive. No, it's not. Anything in excess makes you an addict. It just does. To me, it's more of a learning disability. And based off of nature, nurture, and free will. And that's actually how I got sober, right? I started researching it. And, I knew I was drinking too much. What got me was wine, brother. Wine.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm so embarrassed because I underestimated it. I never drink daily until I found wine. And it's kind of like what you were saying earlier. I drink everything fast. Everything. And it's because I'm constantly dehydrated. I cook my hot coffee in the microwave so it's boiling so I don't drink it too fast.
Oh, wow.
I kid you not. I can't help it. If there's ice cubes, I'll put my hand in there and I'll eat ice cubes constantly.
Huh.
It's weird. And I've actually broken that habit. But I started researching, you probably heard of like dry January, maybe?
I have.
where people quit drinking for a month, right?
Yeah.
Well, I was looking at like Europe. They're a country that drinks a lot like us, and they've been doing dry January for a long time. And the results are fascinating. And do you like Joe Rogan? Comedian, podcast guy.
Yeah, I like Joe.
I like him a lot too. He's done a lot for wrestling and stuff and MMA, but he does it, and he does it in January, but he also does it in October.
Yeah,
so that that way it's ultimately not a New Year's resolution, right? And what they find is people just really don't understand drinking. They say, well, the doctor says you can have this many. That's not true. The doctor, if you ask a doctor, they'll say 0.
Yeah.
You should have none. And the amounts they give you, they've already reduced. And on top of that, they say you can only have a cap per week. So people misread it. The DNA part is more difficult because it's in your blood, meaning you can handle it more, right?
Yeah.
So think like Native Americans on average, I don't like the stereotype, or any culture that didn't drink. Well, they struggle with drinking. Europeans, we've been drinking for a long time, and if it's in your family, it's in your family. So I didn't understand what dependence meant, right?
Yeah.
At least clearly. And kind of like you said, your friends that drink till high school, they might not get in trouble. They might not drink and drive. They might not fight, but I guarantee you they're developing dependency.
Yeah.
Because it's alcohol. It doesn't matter how much you can drink. And one day I was like, man, I can't remember last time I didn't have a drink. And, I started, AA wasn't for me. I've done it. I brought my brother there. I wanted to see what it was all about, and I think it's awesome for the right people, right?
Yeah.
Their success rates aren't that high. So I looked at it, okay, well, let's challenge yourself. Let's see how 2 weeks go. Let's see how 3 weeks go. And all of a sudden, my goodness, I couldn't believe how good I felt.
Yeah.
I suffered a lot of anxiety. Another thing I was embarrassed about. That started happening when my pops died. We took on a lot, man. It was difficult. And I had my first panic attack. I didn't know what a panic attack was. I thought I was having a heart attack, and I ended up in the ditch, right? Well, they said you suffer from anxiety. And I'm like, anxiety? No, I'm not scared of anything. I'm not pussy. So I didn't realize what anxiety was.
Yeah.
And it's not something to be ashamed of. And this coworker of mine, he probably doesn't even remember, and I didn't even know him that well. He explained it to me quite well. He knew my dad was dying, and because I worked with him, he goes, well, anxiety, Ty, if you hold out a glass of water, it's not heavy, right? But hold it for a day. It'll start getting heavier. And I'm like, so what I was shocked about, I knew there was a correlation between anxiety and alcohol. I didn't realize it could possibly be the causation, right?
Yeah.
And so I quit. It's like, not all the anxiety, of course, but the majority of it. And I think what people struggle with when it comes to drinking is, first of all, thinking they have to quit like everybody else. I had a lot of people who quit say, you have to, cut out your friends, this, that. I'm like, oh, screw that. They're my fucking friends. They like drinking when they fish. They like whatever. Wrestling tournaments, NCAAs, they're going to drink beer.
Right.
I'm not going to cut that out of my life. So I threw myself head first into it. I went fishing with my buddies. The social stuff I like, and, quite frankly, I like it better. Everything in life is better. Even my brother would say this. I quit drinking forever. I don't. I would never say never. But I can guarantee you I won't ever drink to drink. I didn't like getting drunk.
Yeah.
It's that crutch, right? That mask. And it helps with anxiety until it doesn't.
Right. And then it induces anxiety.
You got it, man.
Yeah.
Well, you quit, right? What was your story like?
It's been over 10 years for me since I drank, but there towards the end, I would wake up at like 6 a.m. and super anxious. Even if I could go to bed at 4 a.m. and I would still wake up at 6 a.m. and just anxiety would just flood my stomach, and couldn't remember what I did the night before and all that. And that's another thing that people don't realize about drinking. They think that, well, they go to work every day and they do this and they do that and people think that if you're not like in a ditch somewhere, that you don't have a problem. And it's like, it's not necessarily how much you drink. It's more what you do when you drink, you know?
Right.
And basically the gist of it is that every bad thing that happened to me in my life was pretty much alcohol related. So I was like, well, let me just take that out of the equation. And I always tell people it was like having a it was like having a backpack full of bricks on. And when I quit drinking, it was like I just went, ugh, fuck, this is so much easier. You know, like having, instead of walking around that way. And, you know, even in my mid-20s, I'm so much healthier now at 46 than I was at 26. You know, I mean, not to like brag on my push-up prowess, but like now I can do 50 push-ups and it not win me at all. And I remember being in my mid-20s and getting down in a hotel room and doing 50 push-ups, and shit, I don't know how long it took me to recover, but it was hard. And you know, so I wouldn't go back to it for anything. And I think it's great that Titan and Joel have a dad who went through it, because they're obviously both very talented. And I really look forward to watching their careers, because I kind of feel like I know them a little bit. And he will be able to tell them, hey, this is why I don't do this, and this is, you know, it could be in your bloodline, and there's a good chance that you could develop a problem, so you should probably just stay away from it. And that's not to say they never will, because like you said, free will. But I think it will help. And
for sure.
And I was curious when it comes to them. I noticed that TJ said they forfeit to each other. They never wrestle each other, right?
They did, yeah. And then, you know, a little bit of talking started happening and stuff like that. And, you know, I don't know if they're going to see this, but, you know, right now, Titan's having a little bit more success as far as winning. You know, the problem with our sport is, you know, we're so obsessed with winning.
Right.
And that's why, you know, I don't think it's ever been considered a martial art. Jiu-Jitsu is different. And there's a lot more longevity in this sport, because it's not purely about competition. It's about, you know, getting belts. We prove our belts through competition, right? But we didn't want to have and this is TJ's decision, it's his kids, right? But he also, you know, runs stuff past me. And I'm like, you know, I think there's something cool about it, you know, to battle each other out. But, you know, once it starts becoming, I'm, you know, beating my chest because I'm better than you and breaking you down, and they, you know, they both don't want to. And there you have it, you know, their decision. And I kid you not, they're best friends. You know, they fight. Sure. And they roll around, but they're typically laughing. So it's quite a bit different than TJ and I's fighting. Yeah, keep your eye on them, man. They're going to be doing well. And I'm looking forward to working with them more. I stepped away from wrestling when my pops died. That was pretty hard on me. Yeah. A lot of people don't understand why, but, you know, there's more stuff going on. TJ and I, we don't burden ourselves when it comes to our family, or burden other people for ourselves, right? And, you know, my mom had nothing. And TJ and I dealt with that. I could have snapped my fingers and, you know, 1,000 wrestlers would have showed up to move everything, but I didn't want to burden them. This was our burden. And, you know, in hindsight, we should have. You know, friends are there for a reason. And, you know, my dad did a lot for a lot of people. They would have died for him. But, you know, it's that excuses. We're so scared to make excuses on why something's difficult. But the reality is some of these things are tough. And, you know, they can cause PTSD or anxiety. I don't look at those as weaknesses. I look at them as trying to understand them and move forward. And, you know, hopefully have a positive impact on, you know, I don't have kids. But, you know, TJ's kids are my kids. You're right. You know, any kid I run into, I want to be a good role model for, right? I just think that's the appropriate thing to do. But yeah, they're awesome. Yeah. And they're loving. They're loving. I'll tell you what, I give that to my mom. You know, that the champ in the story is my mom. She does not get enough respect. So that lady, so we watched tapes before anybody watched tapes. And, you know, it wasn't a little cute little phone that you carried around. It was one of those giant jukeboxes that break dancers used, right? Yeah. And she chugged that thing everywhere. And every tournament, she'd just sit there patiently, waiting for us to wrestle. My dad, he had to get the gab, so he was out there blabbing around to anybody he could. Anybody would listen to him. And she just did that every day, didn't complain. My dad would make me watch matches right after I wrestled. Because if I was in the zone, I didn't remember. It was all instinct. So I'd want to watch it. When we got home, I had to watch it. My mom turned into an IT professional because she had to literally connect all these things. And so my dad could just sit there and watch tapes over and over again. But she does that, I think what she brought to the twins, because, he had a little bit of break with the mom of twins, right? I don't know how much you guys talked about it, but, it's...
Not much.
They had a break. And my mom helped bring in that comfort to the kids, right? That nurturing, that love. Because my mom is one of the, I can't say enough about her. She's one of the best people I've ever met. Every mom should be. I know there's bad moms out there, but they gave us life. Try and respect your mom.
Yeah.
Try and respect your mom, right? Yeah. And I know you're going through some stuff, so best wishes there too.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, it's, you get to a point too where, in your life, you can always blame your parents or whoever if you want to, but if as a responsible adult you get to a point where you have to be like, okay, they did this or this happened or whatever, what are you going to do about it?
Right.
Because nobody's going to come to your door and be like, hey, we heard you had a hard time.
Right.
I mean, life sucks. It's hard for everybody in a lot of ways, for a variety of reasons. And you just get to a point where I have family members that I'm like, look, I know that your childhood was hard. I get it. And it sucks. But there's no prizes for it.
Right.
You get to a point where the only person that can do anything about it is you. And if you're not willing to do that, at least don't bitch about it.
You nailed it. I mean, I'm into, mindfulness, right? And, I like, a little bit about Buddha and, some of the teachings of Buddhism, right?
Yeah.
And one that really, really stands out to me is, living in the present. And that's free will. That is literally the only thing you truly have some control over, right? If you take a left or take a right, your day has changed. The butterfly effect.
Yeah.
Living in the past, it's good to reflect on it. It's important to understand history, but if you're living in the past, typically it's depression. And if you're living in the future, which you can't control, that's anxiety, right? Or it can be. The only way you truly live is if you're doing it today. And you control that day. How beautiful. Through free will. And a good example of that is, you remember Helen Keller, right? Back when we were young, there's all these Helen Keller jokes, and I'd laugh about them, but I had no idea what was going on. Who's Helen Keller, right?
Yeah.
So then I find out she's deaf and blind, and I'm like, well, why are you making fun of this person? So then I wanted to, learn more. And she went out to talk, and talk and being deaf and blind. Oh, she's a hero. She's probably one of my top 5. Nelson Mandela would be one, and that's simply because I got to travel there. TJ and I wrestling gives you experiences, and life is experiences. I could care less about money, except it gives helps with those experiences.
Yeah.
But I got to go to South Africa with a great group of guys. I think every one of them will say it was their best, experience ever. We're the first U.S. team to be there since they're banned from the Olympics for their apartheid rules, right? It was right when Nelson Mandela got released from prison. My parents had to sign off on my life because there's riots there. And, seeing segregation is, hearing about it's ugly, but seeing it in real life is really ugly, right?
Yeah.
And they're so far behind us, and we were like 16, and, we wrestled their military and their police force, and we kicked their asses. TJ, he got to go to Russia. And I can't remember if it was right before the fall of communism or right after. I think it was right before. But, he saw Lenin's tomb. They like mummified Lenin. You know? So he looks like he's still alive, creepy. He's wolf in sheep clothing, I suppose.
Yeah.
But, how many people get to do that?
Yeah.
Right? And same with how we grew up. My dad was brilliant. We'd wrestle all year long. We'd go junior nationals. You probably know junior nationals, right?
Sure.
It was in Fargo. And then what he'd do is he'd drive us way the hell up there in Canada, 8 hours north of Winnipeg, in a friendly little place called Flin Flon, Manitoba. The lake was Lake Athapathiscal, and we lived there. You know, it started off as like 2 weeks, then turned a month, I think maybe up to 2 months.
Wow.
But we could run free. He knew we were wild, but we're not going to get in trouble in Canada. The Mounties might get us, you know, the local ladies, you know, their boyfriends might come to fight us or something like that. But you know what I mean? Yeah. We fished. And then we come back and we wrestle again. That was our life growing up. And, you know, TJ and I were water rats. You know, we never have our shirts on. You know, you're lucky that my shirt's on right now. You know? And that's not to show off. That's one way I quit, you know, drinking. I was sitting at home, and I was looking in the mirror, and I couldn't believe how fat I was. And I was embarrassed to take my shirt off. I went to the doctor, and they're like, "You're 205 pounds." I'm like, "What? I've never broke 200. And then they said, "You're getting close to diabetic." I'm like, "What?" And, you know, something I can control, type 2 diabetes, right? Yeah. Well, I got sober, and this is like you said, I brag away about what you did, you know, at age 46, 50 push-ups, because other men can't do that.
I can do 100 now.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I did. I lost 50 pounds in 6 months.
Wow.
50 pounds.
Wow.
Right after quit drinking. So I dedicated time to working out. And, you know, I got too thin. But the goal is to first, you know, lose the fat. And then I put on muscle pretty quick. I went from 205 down to about 150. Then I bounced back up to 175, and this is like pure muscle. And then, you know, I tore my shoulder in Jiujitsu, and I'll have to make my way back up there. But everyday PT was a priority, period. It sucks. It's horrible. But, yeah, I mean, my surgeon said most people get surgeries. He goes, "I think you're a good client, you know, prospect for this, but if you don't do it, you're going to need surgery." But he liked that because I'm into yoga. I'm into flexibility. You know, I was working out quite a bit, and he was a wrestler. And I went in there to try and sell him on rehab, and he recommended it. I was like, "Really?" Because I was reading about shoulders. You know, shoulders, they're showing phenomenal results for PT versus surgery. And it's exactly for what you said. Okay. People don't do their PT. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. I totally forgot what the heck I was going to say. Yeah.
I blab too much.
No, you're fine. When I stopped drinking, yeah, it just fell off me. I think I weighed like 189 at the time, and then it seemed like within a few weeks I was down to like 172, and I really need to start doing yoga because you know, I still work out like I'm freaking 18 or something. The other day I was at the park, and I was doing these hill sprints, and they felt fine at the time. And then I'm done, and all of a sudden my hip flexor starts hurting, and I'm like, "Well, did you even stretch, you dumbass?" You know, like, what's wrong with you? You know, I'll work out for an hour, and I won't stretch for 10 minutes, and that's the best way to stay young is to stretch. You know, it's such a simple thing, and when I do stretch, I feel so much better. And yoga's always been kind of slow paced for me, so I think I just need to get into it, just make myself do it until I reap the benefits of it, because it's not just about flexibility, it's about your breathing and all that, right?
Yeah, so give it a try. I used to make fun of it. I kid you not. I'm like, you can't get a workout doing that. What the hell are you doing? Yeah. And, you know, I threw my back up. And I've had tons of surgeries, tons of broken bones. The back scared me. And that's why I'm, you know, hoping for blessings for my brother, because he's got a bad back, and you just don't mess with that, you know, central nervous system. But I couldn't move. Yeah. And, you know, I throw out my back every once in a while. Mine's more acute, you know, so it paralyzed me for like 3 days. It wasn't, you know, anything I needed surgery, at least I hope not. But I started doing yoga. Hasn't thrown back out once. Nice. I'm 45. I can do the splits. I thought the same thing as you. And you can make it aerobic. You can make it mindful. One thing I do like is it brings you into the present when you're doing the slow yoga. It teaches you that breathing. But more importantly, it's something you can do forever.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to be doing power cleans. You know, I don't do power cleans anymore. I do all body stuff. Besides, you know, push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups.
Yeah, me too.
Dumbbells. You know.
Yeah.
I kid you not, you'll love it. Do you know that? Do you follow? I'm sure NCAA wrestling still, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know that Oklahoma State guy, the hothead, the AJ Ferrari.
Oh yeah.
He's built like a brick shit house, right? And you know, just a cocky Italian fella. And at first, I hated him, but he's got a fan base now, and he is a phenomenal wrestler. But when he won his title, he bragged about yoga, and he said, "I can do the splits." Boy, I wish I would have done this a long time ago.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, so I'd say try it. You'll dig it. Use that as your recovery day.
Well, and I think you know, like you said, the whole living in the present thing. You know, that's a skill that you have to like develop, because it's easy to live in the past. It's easy to worry too much about the future, and
right.
You know that they were saying that was Michael Jordan's gift. He could live in the present moment better than anyone. He said, "Why would I worry about a shot I haven't taken yet?" You know,
right.
And that sounds so simple. Well, just think that way. It's something you have to work on. I feel like anyway. You
can though convert it to wrestling. So this is what I mean by that. You know, wrestling's just part of your education, right? I meditate every day. I started that about 2.5 years ago, every day. And you're right. You know, my mind wanders. You know, how you get back and breathe. Focus on your breath, right? So that's the most basic thing of meditation. But I used to do that, but for wrestling. You know, I'd meditate or visualize what I was going to do in the match, and whether it's a placebo effect or who cares, it works.
Yeah.
Any athlete will tell you it's 90% mental.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so if you're working, and I could argue that a little bit, right? You can't have some short little guy who has no wrestling ability wrestling Brock Lesnar, and
right.
But you know what I mean. It's the mind is so powerful, and Jay Robinson, he pushes his guys pretty hard, and that's who I was underneath. And he's military, special ops, Vietnam. He's a Ranger, right?
Yeah.
And so he kind of beat us up like that. But not only that, he wrestled, he coached under Gable for 20 years. And so I think he wanted to one-up him a little bit.
Yeah.
But he'd talk about the mind, and he'd use analogies. I love analogies. But, he talked about, when you're going through puberty and you'd have a wet dream. He goes, your mind is so powerful that, you literally have sex in your dream and you have to wake up and clean yourself out. It's up, right? It's vulgar, I know, but it's true.
Yeah.
Your mind is so powerful, and what you dream of can, be powerful. And he talked about farmers too, because I think farmers are the toughest men in the world.
Yeah.
And when we're bitching about using the same muscle groups every day, he'd correct us. He goes, farmers use the same muscles every day, and to live. And my dad brought me. I don't know if TJ remembers this, or my mom, but he wanted me to know, because I wasn't, ever a farmer, what it was like to be a farmer. So I baled hay with some, wrestling guy I knew. It sucked. And but I knew what I was up against, right?
Yeah.
A farmer does that before they go to school. Then they have to do their practice, their weightlifting. And then they have to come home and do it again. And then they wake up and rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
And I can't say enough about them. They don't have the Greek bodies, but if they grab you, it's like a vice grip.
Yeah.
You're like, what the hell is that? Yeah.
Jay Robbins, he was great too. Didn't he make a world team or an Olympic team or something?
Yeah, his claim for fame is he is the man for both freestyle and gravel.
Okay.
And they're on the same team. He was on the same team as Gable.
Okay.
And that's how they became friends. But I think he was representing the United States for grapple. And, they admired each other, similar, they're wired the same. And they did great things. And, from my understanding, why he left Iowa was, he has those Jay Robinson intensive camps. Well, Iowa wanted that.
Okay.
They wanted part of that. And they're Jays. And, Jay's like, no, they're mine. And, this place opened up here in Minnesota, and he, part of his agreement is the camps were always his, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, that's from my understand that story. And we had a great group of coaches. I mean, I've had amazing coaches. Probably my favorite ever would be Mark Schwab.
Okay.
The Schwab brothers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, his ability. That man was one of the best ever. I don't think a lot of people understand what happened to him, but he got staff, and staff is horrible.
Yeah.
He almost died. He can't even bend his knee. He had to change his whole style, and lead by an example. Any guy who wrestled on him will tell you the same. He called me up at like 3 a.m. Other wrestlers in college meet me in the sauna. And it was the worst workout ever. But it was fun. He created workouts, dumbbell stairs. You take those things with plates. That was Schwab. That was all Schwab. I wish he was built like me, because I'm long and lanky. But as far as motivational quotes, that's a dude you should get on here.
Okay.
He's had his demons with booze. I don't know if he drinks or not. He didn't while I was in college. My first practice with him as a freshman, he punched me. He was kicking my ass, and he punched me. So I think I started crying. And, Eggum and all the other guys were like, thank God I don't have to wrestle that guy.
Why did
he pushed you?
Why did he punch you?
Yeah, he did it right next to you, too. And, his brother's a solid. Him and I used to battle his bro. And, he's an Olympian. He was an NCAA champ. He's a stud. And he's doing a really good job in northern Iowa. And his oldest brother was a stud.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I always heard that Mark Schwab was great. Eric Aiken is somebody that I always looked up to, and he said one time in an interview or something, he goes, if Mark Schwab wouldn't have gotten staff, none of us would have made a world team.
He's phenomenal.
I always heard about how freaking great he was. And why did he punch you?
I might have been giving him a little bit tougher time than he thought. I was getting my ass kicked. He was doing anything he wanted to me, but I think it was because, I was shelling up. And he apologized after. And here's another great story. My senior year, this time I'm bigger. I came in smaller and I got bigger, and I was going with Schwab, and, I would say I was getting the best of him. But define best, because that guy will go forever until he starts getting you. And I remember I was getting tired. And, he punched me, but guess what? I'll punch you back now.
Yeah.
So I punched him back. And then he punched me, and I punched him back again. And then he took another swing, and I swept in on his leg. And I hear this pop. And he steps away, curses, and then he centers back up like nothing. And I'm like, I'm on my knee. I'm like, dude, I just blew your knee. Then he walks away, kicks over a couple of cans. Turns out he blew everything in his knee.
Yeah.
I didn't feel good about it, right? And I didn't try. It was just, he's so competitive.
Yeah.
He'd take us to the gym, like where all the college students work out, and, they hate it because we'd go until we barf, and sweats and stuff. And, well, why are you sitting on that machine reading a newspaper? Get out of here.
Yeah.
Let us use it for what it's supposed to be used for. But, man, I didn't meet what I could have or should have in college, and there's a number of things that got in the way. But I wouldn't take that experience away for anything. Anything. It's something rewarding about getting up at 5 a.m, working until you puke, going to class and watching those other college students roll out of class and realizing that you did more in an hour than that person's going to do the whole day.
Yeah.
That's rewarding. Every person that made it through that program that I know is successful. Define success, but anybody who wanted money, they're rich.
Yeah.
Anybody who wanted family, they got family. They all seem pretty happy.
Yeah.
Brothers for life. That's why I like it. It's kind of like the military, right? No racism, no, this or that. Everybody gets along because you respect each other.
Yeah.
You're doing the exact same things with each other. Joe, do you know Joe Russell's story?
No.
He's probably the second best wrestler ever. Look him up sometime, but, multiple time junior national champ, beating college guys as a high schooler, Kerry Kolak type dude, kind of like Schwab, but his story is even more remarkable. he was going to train with some Russians, and he fell on a motorcycle, and his head went through the.
Oh yeah, okay. I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
He had to hold his brain in. They said he'll never be able to walk again. He ended up running a mile. Took him 40 minutes, but he did it.
Yeah.
He ended up wrestling a D1 match. He can't use half his body. He's a stud.
Yeah.
And he always had a positive attitude. Marty Morgan, stud. He's, from my understanding, Marty, I think, don't quote me on this, but he's the seventh son of the seventh son of the seventh son.
Wow.
And half the dudes in that are professional boxers. The other half are elite wrestlers. Can you imagine those?
Yeah, no shit.
And there's so many Morgans, chances are, you know one. You're going to see one anywhere you go.
Yeah.
No, they're awesome.
I wanted to ask you about Gable Steveson. What do you think about Gable?
Oh, he's probably one of the best I've ever seen.
Yeah.
For heavyweight, right?
Yeah.
You just don't move like that. I mean, the thing I don't like is he's going the WWE route, which I get.
When is he going to do that? Because, man, I hope he doesn't cut his career short, because I hope that he wins the Olympics. I really think he can. He's got a really tough weight class. There's two legends in his, Agul
right.
and what's the other, Petrosvili.
Right.
So to beat those guys, it's going to, it's obviously not going to be easy, but I think if anyone can, it's him. And, a lot of people don't like how cocky he is and all that. And I'm like, well, he backs it up. Like when he,
right.
when he started talking crap to the kid from Michigan, I can't remember his name right now, Mason Paris.
Yeah, the other world champ.
Yeah, Mason
those
Paris.
heavyweights are awesome.
Yeah, he's clapping and like, come on, and all this. I'm like, oh
right.
shit, and Mason Paris is freaking great, and he handled him pretty well, and I don't know. I'm like, I get that some old school people don't like that he's cocky or whatever, but the kid can back it up. And I've never seen any, like you said, heavyweight that can move that way and do the flips he does. And it seems like this year he really kind of rededicated himself. Like it seems like before,
right.
without knowing him at all, he seemed like he just kind of could kick everyone's ass. And then when he lost to that kid from Penn State, he was like, I think I need to get in the weight room, and it's at least that's what it seems like he did. And now he's so fun to watch. But I didn't know how you felt about his like cockiness and all that.
Both, So I'm all about evolving, man. I don't look at things linear, but yeah, I mean the way I was raised, you win with class, you lose with class. Period.
Yeah.
If I did that shit, my dad would have ran on the mat, and he'd tell us this. He'd kick his foot up our ass, right? Yeah. And TJ believes that way too, but evolution. And that AJ guy I was referencing before was saying, doing the same stuff. But the reason is, you're a brand now. You can be your own brand. And whether people like him or hate him, our society seems to reward people for being infamous, right?
Yeah.
Well, half that crap he's probably doing for that, and the other half is for his future career in WWE. I prefer to, I like the sport of respect. But I get it, because now these guys can make money. And even at the college level, from my understanding, they're going to be able to. I saw that, what's his name, that little stud from Penn State, RBY.
Yeah.
He signed some deal. They didn't let us do that back in the day. So bravo, man. You're making a career out of it. So, I'm torn on it, but I'm down with it. As long as the sport gets more participants and it gets respect, that's what I care about.
Yeah.
I think he's going to smash those guys. And I know those guys well. They are awesome. They're staples. But I think why I want him to stay in wrestling is because of the opportunity. It's a little bit biased, but I think wrestling has got its track shoes on now. And I think he can make plenty of money as being the face of the United States wrestling heavyweight.
Yeah.
Everybody loves a heavyweight. And there's not one that can move like him. And I think long-term, but I'm not him, right? I think long-term, that career would be better than acting. Maybe getting exposed to steroids or, whatever WWE does.
Yeah.
And he dedicated his life to this. He's really good with kids, from my understanding. He coaches, so it's a selfish reason why I want him to stay. But I want anybody to be happy, and if that makes him happy, go do it, dude.
Yeah. And again, without knowing him, he, and he can be cocky, but he seems like he has a good heart. And, like you said, I can tell that he probably is good with kids. And I just think he's just a kind of a once in a lifetime heavyweight. So to cut his career short to me, I think would be kind of a shame. But like you said, it's not my career. It's just like Aaron Pico, I would have loved to have seen how good he could have become. And it just seems like, well, you got all that time to do WWE or whatever, but again, it's his life. So, and speaking of being good with kids and all that, you seem like you would be a great dad. Have you ever had any desire to be, or do you ever want to be?
Yeah, yes and no. Maybe. I'll never say no to anything. At first I want to have two. Ideally twins. Boys. If I had girls, they'd probably kill me. Then it became one. And, I think it's more kind of what you see with nature, nurture, and free will, right? And it's not uncommon right now that people are choosing not to have kids. In fact, our birth rates are going down. And I truly believe that's because the strength it takes to raise kids these days. I mean, you usually have both the mom and the dad working in most families, right? Not all of them, of course. So you rely on daycare. Daycare's a mortgage here a month, right? So it causes stress. And then, the uncertainty of economies, man. We've had two of the worst economies since the Great Depression. And automation. Technology is a big part of that. I work with IT, and I think that's kind of the big deal right now is we're just not ready as a species to what technology is doing.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us are. I mean, I was talking with a buddy about it earlier today. You ever see Children of the Corn?
Oh, yeah. Creepy.
We're living in Children of the Corn. The people who are supposed to police the children don't know what the kids are doing because they can program in third grade now.
Yeah.
How do you police that? But yeah, I mean, it's the best way to leave your legacy, isn't it? Is to have kids.
Yeah.
But I don't define myself like that. If it happened, great. I would make a good dad, I think. Because anything worth doing, I'll do. If it's shoveling shit, I'll become the best shit shoveler I can become, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, you. How about you? You have how many? I'm sorry.
I just have one. He's 2.5, and people are always asking when we're going to have another one, and I'm like, I think I'm good with just one good one.
Yeah, how old? I'm sorry.
He's 2.5.
So a little bit later in life, right? Because you said you're 46.
Yeah, I'm 46, so I had him when I was 43 and a half, whatever, and
right.
Yeah, I don't think I would have been a good dad if I would have had one younger. I had too much shit I needed to work out and
right.
and too much baggage to get rid of myself. And I would never tell anyone to have one or not, but I do think you'd be a great dad. And
thank you.
And it does something to you, man, that especially now, like the first couple years, dude, anybody who says it's not a lot of work is probably not doing it right. Because it is a lot of freaking work. And the first couple of years as a man, I had these thoughts like occasionally like, so you're the best thing that's ever going to happen to me, huh? Like, like at 3 o'clock in the morning or whatever, just like, God, this is so hard and it takes every ounce of everything you've got every single day. And women, I think, because they carry the kid for 9 months and all that. So it takes a minute. And don't get me wrong, obviously I loved him from the day he was born, but now he's starting to talk and get things and get over certain little fears and all that, and it is so fun to watch, and right. I just love him to pieces, man. I can't hug him and kiss him enough, and he does this thing every night where I put him to sleep almost every night, and I started saying, "Can Daddy hold you for just a minute before I put you in bed?" And now he asks me, "Will you hold me for a minute?" And he doesn't know what a freaking minute is. So, so I hold him for I'll hold him for like 5 minutes and just get that in, because he's so active during the day that the only time he chills out is then. And I don't remember why I started talking about it, but he's just, it's just amazing. And, yeah, so, and, you know, you're still young and healthy, and I'm not telling you to have a kid, but you would be great at it. And, you know,
Thank you.
And you've you know, you've got great nephews, and I really do look forward to watching their careers, dude. I can't wait. And I also wanted to ask you this about the twins. How did they decide who was Joel and who was Titan when you have twins like that? Do you know?
Well, it kind of ties back to the kids thing, because I always like the name Tristan.
Okay.
And TJ's like, well, I'm going to name my kid Tristan. And I'm like, what? I'm like, wait a second. No, you can't do that. And it was because, what's that movie with Brad Pitt? God, it's the two brothers fight. It's one of my favorites. I forget. But anyways, you know, one of them's like Brad Pitt, and the other one's a little bit more like me, TJ and Ty, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I forget. But anyways, no, I mean, you know, most of us are TJs. I'm Ty Jason. I'm a TJ.
Okay.
There's 3 Timothys, so, you know,
nice.
You know, you're in good company, brother. No, there's Timothy Joel, my dad, Timothy Joel II, TJ, and then Joel is Timothy Joel III.
Okay.
And then you got Titan, and, you know, Titan, my name was supposed to be Titus. Titus
okay.
John, I think, from the Bible or something like that.
Okay.
My mom thought it sounded like a big football player, so they brought it down to Ty, which everybody thinks stands for something longer. It's not. It's Ty.
Just
Ty.
Ty.
Yep. Which I get. You know, my nicknames are my name longer, right? My friends call me Tyrone, Tyler, Titus, Tidy. I don't know. I got a ton of them. My brother calls me Jamaica.
Yeah.
He used to be Tyson Jamaica Man. Now he just calls me Jamaica. You know, we all got weird nicknames. But I don't know. You know, you know, they're killers. You know, they're going to be fun. I don't see how they can't be. They're having fun. They're not weight cutting. They're strong in their roots, their faith. They're you know, they treat adults with respect. You know, they're good to everybody. They don't discriminate. One of them said, you know, we're really popular. I don't understand why. I'm like, well, it's because you treat people well. You know, you're not part of the clique, man.
Yeah.
You beat by your own drum. And you don't discriminate. You know, you embrace everything. So, yeah, they're light years ahead of TJ and I on a lot of things. And they've had a tough journey already. So, yeah, I mean, they're going to be special. But why TJ went that way, I'm sure he wanted another TJ just for selfish reasons. He has another boy. His last name's not Friederichs. It's on the mom's side, but Brady McGinnis.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, all of them are good kids. And TJ is I get what you're saying. And thanks for saying that, what type of dad you are, because dads are important, right? And gives TJ purpose. And TJ's a phenomenal father.
Yeah, he looks
phenomenal father.
Yeah, he seems like it.
Yeah, so almost to a fault, right? But he knows how to pull himself back. He's not living vicariously through his kids.
Right.
You know, he's trying to teach them what he didn't learn.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes a successful parent, right? To honor my parents, I'm going to learn from what my dad did right and carry that forward, hopefully improve on it, but more importantly, learn from what he did wrong and not repeat it.
Yeah.
And same with my mom. And I think if you can do that, then you're respecting your parents, but then more importantly, your parents, you know, can maybe pass on knowing they were successful.
Yeah.
So keep it up, brother.
Oh, I will, man.
Is he going to be a basketball player?
You know, I hope that he wants to wrestle. It's definitely going to be something that I, you know, without making him do it, like I'm just going to watch it all the time around him, and hopefully, you know, hopefully he'll be like, "Daddy, can I wrestle?" And I'll be like, "Yes."
Yeah, sure. How much is it?
Yeah, you know, because I've only been above average at a few things in my life, and I was a pretty decent wrestler, and I know a lot about it. But I mainly think that I would be good at the mental aspect of it, because there's so many things that I got hung up on that held me back as far as wrestling goes. Like, I still to this day wonder, like, how good I would have been if I could have just let go of some of that shit, you know? Like, I remember a kid beating me out at Kids State one year, and then wrestling him the next year at this, just an invitational, and beating him 13-0. And that's when that's when I realized, like, dude, you don't have to wrestle differently at the state tournament. You just wrestle like you always do. And just because it's that tournament, just treat it like it's any other tournament. And that's when I started having success at the state tournament. Because I would go undefeated until state and then get beat by somebody who had no business beating me, because it became this thing in my mind, like the end all and be all. And it's not. It's a great thing to win, and it feels great, but at the end of it, it's, more the preparation and all those kind of things.
The journey.
Yeah.
Right? The journey, yeah.
And it helps me so much in stand-up comedy, because it was like I was preparing myself for this without even realizing it. Because I'm an introvert too. Like, people think that since I do what I do for a living that I'm probably more, but I'm not. Like, I have to fight anxiety and get nervous about that. And there's times where I'm like, I feel like I've never done it a day in my life. I get so nervous, but it goes away, and I think that all goes back to wrestling. Putting on a singlet and potentially getting your ass kicked in front of a crowd of people.
Half naked.
Yeah, yes. I'm kind of jealous of these kids now that sometimes they wrestle in that's not singlets. I'm like, man, I was so self-conscious about that shit when I was younger, because the way I was built, like, I always had little love handles, and I was never a fat kid, but I just hated that. I was always tugging on it and all that, and it was like, man, these little kids have no idea how lucky they are to not, have to wear those things.
You're preaching to the choir, man. I was a toothpick, walking, talking toothpick,
Yeah.
And my brother made sure I knew that, and anybody did, but, I used it to my advantage. But, yeah, man, it's such a game of inches. And that's where I had success. I didn't deviate from the plan. I just, I did everything to a T. And, I think what you said there, I remember you bringing that up about, why you actually started drinking a little bit was to give you the courage to speak on stage, right?
Yeah,
not necessarily.
That's probably when I started abusing it.
Okay.
It was always free, and I think there's several things that led to me quitting, but once it was like a Tuesday, and back when I first started, it was common for clubs to be Tuesday through Sunday, and now they're like Wednesday, Thursday through Saturday. But anyway, it was like a Tuesday, and I'm half drunk, and I thought to myself, like, dude, what are you doing right now? Like, it's not even the weekend, and you're half shit-faced. You're just getting drunk because it's free and it's a Tuesday. Like, you're going to wake up, be in your mid-40s, have a full-blown drinking problem. Your career will have gone nowhere. And I could just see the writing on the wall, and I knew a lot of great comics whose career got ruined by it. And so it's fortunately we've gotten away from it a little bit. Like, comics used to just get hammered, and now it's like now that's pretty rare. People don't do that near as much as they used to, and if they do, their careers cut short and all those kind of things. So,
mark my words, it will go by the way that cigarettes did in the future. Now, alcohol is the only thing you consume that attacks literally every cell in your body.
Yeah,
your hair, your skin, your body, everything, right? And you remember cigarettes used to be cool. Now they put you outside to be mocked, right?
Yeah.
If you tell someone you quit smoking, it's like, all right. You know what the first question is every time I tell people I quit drinking? Why?
Yeah.
Second question, forever?
Yeah.
And, that's a nature problem, man. Our culture drinks too much, period. And, you hear the term, it's called sober curious. I guarantee you that trend catches on. And I don't try and preach to people. Like, if you notice my Facebook, I try and explain things on how it affected me. You know how many people have reached out to me and said thanks? You know how many people have quit? And not even for good. And that's what's interesting about that dry January or dry October, or do a month, right? You don't recognize it because we do it so much, right? And society puts it in front of your face everywhere. Okay, you want to go get breakfast? Have a Bloody Mary. Oh, you want to watch football? Let's have some beers. Happy hour. I can't even imagine being a comedian. They probably throw everything at you guys.
Yeah.
Cocaine, you name it. Whatever fires folks up, right?
Yeah.
Booze. it takes a certain level of discipline to do something different than society. And I think wrestling gives you that. And, it doesn't hurt to share that with folks. And, what they're finding with those studies is that people who do 30 days, they get it. And some of them never drink again. But the ones who do, they cut back significantly, right?
Yeah.
Because they get it. They realize that they do have a relationship with alcohol. It might not be physical, but how many people say, let's go to happy hour? Sweet. Well, how many people don't show up the next day from work because of happy hour?
Right.
Because they're sick. Because they drink poison, right?
Yeah.
But I would never tell anybody what they can or can't do. I'm a libertarian. Do what you want. If it hurts you, that's unfortunate. Just don't hurt anybody else, because then it's a problem,
Yeah, I hate when people feel like they can't do that around me because I don't. I'm like, no. Just like when I was cutting weight and I would go watch people eat, like I don't care. I want you to have a good time. It kind of amuses me to see like how you get, and I wondered myself, like, was I that way? Like I must have been.
Right.
Like when people repeat themselves and that kind of stuff. Plus, when you get sober, you realize like who you need to be drunk to be around. And once you get sober and you're like, oh, I don't, your circle gets smaller, but it gets tighter, because there's some people that you can't talk to unless you got a few in you, because they suck.
Right. No, you make a good point. Once I'm at the bar, usually about 10-ish, right? Where they start telling me they love me, or they're so proud of me.
Yeah.
Or that they want to, cut back themselves. And I always say, hey, that's a good idea. Let's talk about when you're sober, man.
Yeah.
Very rare do I ever hear from them, but that's fine.
Yeah.
That's when I go home. And guess what I do? I go to bed and I wake up feeling awesome.
Yeah.
And then I accomplish my whole day and, above and beyond anything I can have ever imagined. I'm very strong left side of my brain. I think it's left side, the logic, right?
Yeah.
But most people don't realize how strong I am right side, because my mom was very artistic, and that yin yang theory. I'm in balance right now, brother. And when my logic side is working with my creative side, that's when I'm at my best. It's ultimately what defined my wrestling.
I loved it, man. I really enjoyed talking to you. And I've your brother always says great things about you, and I've respected you from afar from a long time, so it's nice to have a conversation with you. All right, everybody. Ty Friederichs, total Minnesota legend, and it was great talking to him. Him and his brother are both great dudes and total studs. And Titan and Joel Friederichs, I really look forward to watching their career, because I think he said they were 14, and they are just freaking, I'm always reading about them, and I've watched some of their matches, and so they're going to be great. Look out for them, and I think that's it. Go to Making It Happen, MACAN, It Happen. Help out little Bo Macon and his family, and TimGaitherComedy.com. All my social media is on there, and thank you so much. Subscribe to the channel if you have not, and God bless all of you. Take care. Bye. Do us both a favor and click on that subscribe button.